I am mentioning this because I do have brothers and sisters who have returned to Torah, which is a beautiful thing. Yahushua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ is Torah. He is the Word, right? But in their zeal to return to Torah, I am praying that they will be wise. The Passover feast is coming up, and I am hoping that they understand that our Father in heaven does not want any physical sacrifices anymore. And here at the end of the story of Isaiah, he makes it very clear. So Isaiah 66:3, whoever slaughters an ox is like one who slays a man. Whoever sacrifices a lamb is like one who breaks a dog's neck. Whoever presents a grain offering is like one who offers pig's blood. Whoever offers frankincense is like one who blesses an idol. Indeed, they have chosen their own ways and delighted in their abominations. So I will choose their punishment, and I will bring terror upon them. Because I called and no one answered, I spoke and no one listened. But they did evil in my sight and chose that in which I did not delight. So brothers and sisters, I pray that you will be very, very wary of anyone who does anything that even looks remotely like they're sacrificing, because that was done away. That's like a slap in the face to Yahushua HaMashiach, who was the lamb that was slain before the foundation of the world. So going back here, verse 11 of Isaiah 1, what good to me is your multitude of sacrifices, says Yahweh. I am full from the burnt offerings of rams and the fat of well-fed cattle. I take no delight in the blood of bulls and lambs and goats. When you come to appear before me, who has required this of you, this trampling of my courts? Bring your worthless offerings no more. Your incense is detestable to me, your new moon, Sabbaths, and convocations. I cannot endure iniquity in a solemn assembly. So it's not that we're no longer to recognize the new moon's Sabbaths and to come together on the feast days, the convocations, the times to come together. I don't believe that's what it says. The very next statement is, I cannot endure iniquity in a solemn assembly. I hate your new moons and your appointed feasts. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. And he tells us in Isaiah 66 why. Because they do evil in his sight and choose that in which I did not delight. Okay, they want to do these grain offerings and sacrifices and all these things that are an abomination. So I just want to bring that up so that we're very thoughtful of that as we come into the Passover and unleavened bread. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I will hide my eyes from you. Even though you multiply your prayers, I will not listen. Your hands are covered with blood. Yes, they are, because they have been sacrificing, right? Which is not acceptable any longer. Wash and cleanse yourselves. Remove your evil deeds from my sight. Stop doing evil. Learn to do right. Seek justice and correct the oppressor. Defend the fatherless and plead the case of the widow. Come now, let us reason together, says Yahweh. Though your sins are like scarlet, even though you have blood on your hands, they will become as white as snow. Though they are as red as crimson, they will become like wool. If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the best of the land. But if you resist and rebel, you will be devoured by the sword. See how the faithful city has become a harlot? She once was full of justice. Righteousness resided within her, but now only murderers. Your silver has become dross. Your fine wine is diluted with water. And about becoming murderers, remember what we read in Hosea chapter 9, that Ephraim will bring his children out to the murderers. Also in Jeremiah, I believe it's chapter 4. Hang on, I'll bring that verse up. Right, so this is Jeremiah chapter 4. I'm in verse 31. For I hear a cry like a woman in labor. That's always how the daughter of Zion is described, or Jacob in the time of Jacob's trouble. Anyway, for I hear a cry like a woman in labor, a cry of anguish like one bearing her first child, the cry of the daughter of Zion gasping for breath, stretching out her hands to say, woe is me, for my soul faints before the murderers. Okay, Ephraim will bring out his children to the murderers. I'm going to let you figure out what that is. I believe that I know, but I'm just going to read the scriptures to you and let you decide. Righteousness resided within her, but now only murderers. Your silver has become dross. Silver represents the priesthood. I'll show that to you. This is Malachi chapter 3. It says, "But who can endure the day of his coming, and who can stand when he appears? For he is like a refiner's fire and like launderer's or fuller's soap. He will sit as a refiner and purifier of silver." See, he's going to purify the silver. "He will purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver." So often when it talks about silver, it is talking about those who represent God, okay, the priesthood. Let me just go back to Isaiah chapter 1. Your silver has become dross, right? That's what it just said. He's going to be a purifier of silver. He will purify the sons of Levi because they've become dross. Your fine wine is diluted with water. Wine is doctrine. It's been diluted by the philosophies of men. Your rulers are rebels. We've seen this over and over and over. Okay, it's the rulers that cause the people to perish. Friends of thieves, they all love bribes and chasing after rewards. They do not defend the fatherless, and the plea of the widow never comes before them. Therefore, the Lord God of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, declares, "Ah, I will be relieved of my foes and avenge myself of my enemies. I will turn my hand against you. I will thoroughly purge your dross." See, okay? His workers are going to be purged, right? "I will remove all your impurities." This is what's happening. By striking Egypt, he'll heal it. By striking Egypt, he will heal it. Also, the time of Jacob's trouble, but he will be saved out of it. Right? "I will restore your judges as at first, and your counselors as at the beginning. After that, you will be called the city of righteousness." What did we see in chapter 19 of Isaiah? Let me find it really quickly. Chapter 19, it talks about the city that's going to be set up. Let me just find that really quickly. Hang on, let me just find it. Oh, it's right here in front of me. Okay. Verse 18. Okay. "In that day, 5 cities in the land of Egypt will speak the language of Canaan and swear by Yahweh Sabaoth. One will be called the city of destruction." But if we go down here to G, it tells us that in the Targums Okay, and this other translation, it will be called the city of righteousness. This is what I want you to see, okay? Which then brings it right over here back to Isaiah 1. "After that, you will be called the city of righteousness, the faithful city." That's one of the 5 cities, right? "Zion will be redeemed with justice, her repentant ones with righteousness. But rebels and sinners will together be shattered, and those who forsake Yahweh will perish." Because what did it say earlier in here? That if he had not left us a very small remnant. I think this one says it a little differently. It says, "Unless Yahweh Sabaoth had left us a few survivors." The KJV, I believe, says a very small remnant, okay? That we would have been like unto Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. We are back down here. So Zion will be redeemed with justice, her repentant ones with righteousness, because they may see 10,000 fall on one side and 1,000 on the other, but it's not going to touch them, okay? They are going to be redeemed. "But rebels and sinners will together be shattered, and those who forsake Yahweh will perish. Surely you will be ashamed of the sacred oaks in which you have delighted. You will be embarrassed by the gardens that you have chosen." Okay, so the oaks in which you've delighted, oaks are mighty men. These are the rulers in which we've delighted. The gardens are the systems that we have chosen, okay, to be that which will save us, but they're not going to. And that could also be church systems, right? Those could be church congregations. We're believing that the church is going to save us instead of Yahushua Mashiach, Jesus Christ. We have to be careful where our trust is. For you will become like an oak whose leaves are withered, okay, talking about these sacred oaks. Like a garden without water, talking about the systems. They're all going to perish. The strong man will become tinder, and his work will be a spark. So that makes you understand what we're talking about. So the tree, okay, the oak is the strong man, the mighty man, the ruler, right? He's going to become tinder. Okay, so that's that really fine wood that you use to start, like twigs and things that you start a fire with, because it lights up really fast. And his work, all right, the systems and churches and schools and all the things that he has set up to lead the people astray is going to be the spark. Both will burn together with no one to quench the flames. All right, so this is the story of the daughter of Zion of Ephraim. Most of them will be destroyed within the land where they are found. That in these revelations, God is calling Egypt. Most of them will be destroyed. But there will be those who will put their trust in the Holy One of Israel, Yahushua HaMashiach, and they will be delivered. Okay, going back to 66, let's come down here. Before she was in labor, she gave birth. Here we are again with this birth imagery, right? This is the daughter of Zion. Before she was in pain, she delivered a boy. That's the man child in Revelation chapter 12. Who has heard of such as this? Who has seen such things? Can a country be born in a day, or a nation be delivered in an instant? Okay, a country born in a day. Okay, delivered. Yet as soon as Zion was in labor, she gave birth to her children. Shall I bring a baby to the point of birth and not deliver it, says Yahweh? Or will I who deliver close the womb, says your God? Be glad for Jerusalem and rejoice over her, all who love her. Rejoice greatly with her, all who mourn over her. So that you may nurse and be satisfied at her comforting breasts. You may drink deeply and delight yourselves in her glorious abundance. Back in Isaiah, I think it's chapter 9, it talks about that a man, this is the man child, will keep alive a cow and 2 sheep. All right, those are those 3 groups, and this is the milk that it's talking about. They're going to be kept alive because of the abundance of milk. Hang on, I'll just read it to you. I actually had a friend call me and say, there's some deep stuff there. By the way, it's Isaiah 7, not 9. There's some deep stuff in here, but I'm not quite sure what it says. And he's right, there is some deep stuff in here. So Isaiah chapter 7, starting in verse 18, on that day Yahweh will whistle for the flies at the farthest streams of the Nile, and to the bees in the land of Assyria. Remember that in Isaiah chapter 19, the 2 first groups that are being brought together, coming up here is the Egyptians, right, and the Assyrians. These are the same groups that it's talking about here, okay? And it's really interesting because it starts out by saying, let's see, where was I? He will bring... Okay, whistle to the flies at the farthest streams of the Nile. So he is calling the daughter of Zion at this point the flies, right? Because they're going through the time of Jacob's trouble. They have some dross to get taken off of them, right? So that they can become silver and serve Yah, right? They become the Levites. They become the servants of Yah in his sanctuary, just like the Levites did before. That's why it's using that term, so that we understand the kind of role that they will have, okay? So you're going to whistle to the flies at the farthest streams of the Nile, and to the bees in the land of Assyria, okay? Those 2 groups. And they will all come and settle in the steep ravines and clefts of the rocks, in all the thorn bushes and watering holes. On that day, Yahweh will use a razor. This razor is the Assyrian, hired from beyond the Euphrates. The king of, well, it says it right there, the king of Assyria, to shave your head and the hair of your legs, and to remove your beard as well. Okay, that's the time of Jacob's trouble. That is getting the dross off of it. On that day, though, a man, this is the man child, will raise a young cow and 2 sheep. Okay, these are the 3 groups. Remember, you have Egypt, my people, Assyria, the work of my hands, and Israel, my inheritance. Those are the 3 groups talked about at the very end of Isaiah chapter 19. And from the abundance of milk they give, what were we just talking about in Isaiah 66? It says, so that you may nurse and be satisfied at her comforting breasts. You may drink deeply and delight yourselves in her glorious abundance, right? This is the same story over and over. And from the abundance of milk they give, he will eat curds, for all who remain in the land will eat curds and honey because of the abundance of milk. And on that day, in every place that had 1,000 vines worth 1,000 shekels of silver, only briars and thorns will be found. Men will go there with bow and arrow, for the land will be covered with briars and thorns. For fear of the briars and thorns, you will no longer traverse the hills once tilled by the hoe. They will become places for oxen to graze and sheep to trample. Because the people have become just briars and thorns, okay? Except for this small group. That if I had not left you a very small remnant, as it says in Isaiah 1, you would have become like unto Sodom and Gomorrah. All right. This is the situation that Jacob finds himself in. At this point, he's being called Jacob. This is the time of Jacob's trouble. He's being called Jacob because he's not yet wrestled with God. He's not yet been purified. Okay, he's still full of dross, and therefore he is not Israel yet. Okay, but he's going to be Israel, just as it says in Isaiah chapter 49. Just like it says here in 49, listen, O coastlands, to me, and take heed, you peoples from afar. Yahweh has called me from the womb, from the matrix of my mother. He has made mention of my name, and he has made my mouth like a sharp sword. In the shadow of his hand he has hidden me. Right? We're going to be hidden in the shadow of the Almighty, right? That's Psalms 91. And made me a polished shaft, right? He's polished us, that shaft has become polished silver. In his quiver he has hidden me. And he said to me, you are my servant, O Israel, in whom I will be glorified, right? That's what this process is all about, is about us becoming Israel. When you see, you will rejoice, and you will flourish like grass. Then the hand of Yahweh will be revealed to his servants, but his wrath will be shown to his enemies. Like I said, but in striking Egypt will heal it. So his hand is going to be revealed to his servants while his wrath is being poured out on his enemy. So the phoenix is going to rise in the ashes. Okay, and that's what we have to expect. For behold, Yahweh will come with fire. His chariots are like a whirlwind, to execute his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword Yahweh will execute judgment on all flesh, and many will be slain by Yahweh. Notice the slaying is not happening by men. Okay, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit. That is how we will be delivered. Those who consecrate and purify themselves to enter the groves, to follow one in the center of those who eat the flesh of swine and vermin and rats, will perish together, declares Yahweh. Okay? Don't be following after men, all right? And what they're telling you need to do. And I, knowing their deeds and thoughts, am coming to gather all nations and tongues, and they will come and see my glory. I will establish a sign among them, and I will send survivors from among them to the nations, to Tarshish, Put, and the archers of Lud, to Tubal, Javan, and the islands far away, who have not heard of my fame or seen my glory, because he's coming to Egypt, right? But he's going to send the survivors to the rest of the nations, the servants, to tell the people what has happened in Egypt, So they will proclaim my glory among the nations, and they will bring all your brothers from all the nations as a gift to Yahweh on horses and chariots and wagons, on mules and camels, to my holy mountain Jerusalem. This is not yet Old Jerusalem. Old Jerusalem is not redeemed. until the very end, because they do not believe in Yahushua HaMashiach. They are not redeemed until the end, says Yahweh. Just as the Israelites bring an offering in a clean vessel to the house of Yahweh. And I will select some of them as priests and Levites, says Yahweh. That's what we just saw, right? For just as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, will endure before me, so your descendants and your name will endure. From one new moon, remember I told you the new moons are still going to happen and the Sabbaths are still going to happen, but now we're going to do it in a way that delights our Father in heaven. From one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, all flesh, all mankind will come to worship before me, says Yahweh. As they go forth, they will see the corpses of the men who have rebelled against me. Okay? You will only see it with your eye. For their worm will never die, their fire will never be quenched, and they will be a horror to all mankind. Okay, so I'm hoping that what I've shared with you is the full story of the servant, from the servant being in incredible iniquity, going through, therefore, this time of trial called the time of Jacob's trouble, coming out, only a handful of them. And that's why I'm sharing these studies, because I'm hoping to help grow that handful as big as we can grow it during this time of Jacob's trouble. I believe the time of Jacob's trouble is the time that started with that's the other reason why I believe it's the United States of America, okay, Egypt, because we have the two eclipses. And the one is the beginning of the time of Jacob's trouble, and that was back in 2017. And the one in the spring of 2024 in April is the ending. It is almost a 7-year period that happens, right? And both of them go only across the United States of America. I do believe that that is prophetic. There is one thing that I should probably share with you here in the end, is that we've talked about those two eclipses, but there's one more that's going to happen in 2023, and I just want to show that to you real quick. This one is actually going to occur in October 14th, 2023. It starts, I believe it's the Saturday after the last Sabbath of the Feast of Tabernacles. Okay, and I don't think that that's insignificant. The other thing I want to show you, well, first of all, let me show you who it's affecting. This is really interesting. So this is the path that it's going to be affecting. Okay, notice that it's going to cover this part of North America. It's going to go down and cover some of Central America, and then the northern part of South America. I find that interesting. Let me just show you really quickly. We'll zoom in a little bit to the United States. All right. So it's going to go down through Oregon, Nevada, Utah, New Mexico, and Texas down through San Antonio, which is where we used to live, right outside of San Antonio. Then it's going to come down here, and it's going to go through the Yucatan and Catana and Belize, Honduras, Nicaragua, Panama, where else? Colombia, the Amazon, right, area, and anyway, through Brazil. All right, so that's where it's going. Now what I want to show you is where it's occurring in the skies, okay? So I'll go ahead and turn all this off. Let me just turn these on real quick, and let me pull this up so we have date and time. We're going to go to October, and if we find the moon, we will find it. So let me just go and find the moon real quick. Boom. All right, and we're going back to the 14th. So I just want to show you, do you see where the eclipse is happening? It's occurring right beside Spica. Okay, let me just go back a few hours so we can see the actual eclipse. Right beside Spica in the Virgin. And Venus, in the meantime, is in Leo. I don't think that's insignificant. Let me show you what happened. Let me just make sure that I keep my focus on the moon so I can do this quickly. If we go to 2024, let me show you where that eclipse is going to happen. So that is back in April. Okay. And it is going, no, back, not forward. There we go. So April 8th. Do you see where that one's happening? It's happening right here at the entrance of Pisces, the fish. And Venus, once again, is witnessing. Look at this. Venus is right here. And the other thing interesting about that is Saturn, at this point, is just coming out of the waters of Aquarius. Just exiting it. So the waters that the great dragon spewed out as a flood, right? The earth has opened its mouth and received the waters. Okay. And then we have this eclipse. I believe that is the end of Jacob's trouble, is what is happening there. Okay. But isn't it interesting that the previous October, we also have the eclipse, and it obviously has something to do with the woman. And I think it's just an intensifying of the labor pains. I think things are going to get tougher for the woman at that point. And then let me go back and we'll just look at the 2017 one just to see it. So where it was at that time. So that one happened, probably shouldn't say this aloud online, but it's what came into my head. Happened on my birthday, interestingly enough, because I was born on August 21st. So right here, it happened in Leo. So notice that the first one that happened is in Leo. The second one is in the Virgin. And the third one is in Pisces. I don't think that is a coincidence. And each time Venus is close by, and it's significant where Venus is located. Look at this one, just coming out of the twins. The twins, I believe, are the two sticks, all right? You have the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim that are going to come together and be one in the hands of Yahweh. That notice he's carrying the lyre. I believe that this first twin is Judah. Okay, David with his harp, right? And then over here we have the sickle. Who interpreted the dream about the 7 years of plenty and the 7 years of famine? It was Joseph. And Joseph was involved in collecting all of that grain during the 7 years of plenty, right? The sickle, the harvest. All right. So I believe that this is telling us that they have come together again and that they are about to go out and bring back all of Israel that's scattered all over the world at this point back to his holy mountain. And then don't forget also that after that second one happens, which is 2024, back to April. All right. And of course, I'm too far forward. Going back. See if I can get there. There we go. So when this one happens, okay, then what I wanted to show you is that it is right after that. Look at this. This is April 8th. All right. This is what I believe is the end of the time of Jacob's trouble. Let's put our focus actually on the sun, so that it doesn't run away from me. I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Watch Jupiter. Do you see Jupiter right here? Watch Jupiter, where he's going. He's going into Taurus. He's going into Egypt. Okay? And then here comes his bride, Venus, and here comes the sun. Look. Okay? I believe that this is Yahushua HaMashiach. Okay? This is Jupiter anointed with the sun. I believe this is Yahushua HaMashiach coming to tabernacle with his bride. Okay, and here is the consummation of the marriage. Okay, this is the marriage supper of the Lamb. Notice this is right after the ending of the time of Jacob's trouble. This is the next month after that. And then remember that Jupiter remains in the bull for a full year after he enters. So that is the bridegroom spending that year with the bride. It is just amazing. And this is when he's going to be sending the servants out that we read about in this study. He's going to be sending the servants out throughout the world to tell everyone of the good news. right? The rest of the world is now going to know the good news that Jesus Christ has come and he is tabernacling with his people, and his people Israel are going to be gathered from all over the world out of the hands of the wicked Assyrian. And we will see the salvation of our God. Anyway, God bless and keep you. I hope this study has been of some profit to you. I'm sorry if I have upset some people by the way that I'm understanding the scriptures, but I feel that I need to share with you that this is what I'm seeing, and it's okay if that's not what you're seeing. Anyway, God bless and keep.